Welcome to another episode of Talking Nerdy in the Bedroom with
Corey,
KJ,
and Mike.
Today we're going to be talking about Evil Dead, one of my favorite horror movies, and we've got Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead Army of Darkness.
One of my favorite horror movies.
just called
one of my
Army of
favorite
Darkness, but yeah.
So a horror
What?
series?
Horror franchises.
Okay, that sounds better.
There we
There
go.
you go.
So we've also got Evil Dead, the remake in like 2013. Then we had the TV series, Ash vs. Evil Dead. And then we have the new movie coming out, Evil Dead Rise Again, I think is what it's called.
Is that Bruce Campbell?
No, Bruce Campbell is
he's
an executive director, producer, something like that.
Yeah.
But he's kind of gone on record saying he's too old now to do it, which is disappointing. We'll get into more of that when we talk about Ash versus Evil Dead. But first, let's talk about the first Evil Dead movie and see when we first saw it. Because it sounds like, Mike, obviously, you just saw it.
Yeah, last week.
Yes. And Corey saw it growing up. Obviously, we weren't alive when the first movie came out in 1981. When did you see the movie?
I have no idea.
You don't remember?
I can't remember that. And Army of Darkness, I probably saw, when I was like 10. But I've seen it so many
something that
times.
made you want to see Army of Darkness? Like, do you remember seeing?
So you haven't seen
the
it
first
recently?
two?
Like either
Oh,
one?
no, I have. Not recently, but Army of Darkness I've probably seen like 10 times in my life. And
That's not that many.
I think I saw Army of Darkness first, and then I saw the other two
That's
after.
what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
So Army of Darkness for you was the first one that you saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like if you watch it now, you're going to hate it more.
Army of Darkness?
No, like all of them, yeah.
No, well, the first two, yeah. Army of Darkness, no. I love me some Army of Darkness. There's so many good parts.
It's so campy.
Yeah, the campiness.
That's the best part.
Didn't you say that you liked the TV show? That is super campy. That's
Yeah, but
100% campy.
It's like a modern campy. It's hard to explain. Like the
but they
jokes
can't
and
be a
stuff are-
modern campy in 1991.
Well, true, but like the being poked in the eyes and whatnot by the skeleton, like the
That's
the-
fucking funny.
Hurley, Three Stooges kind of
Yeah.
shit with
Yeah.
the skeleton.
Oh God, it is so good.
No, the Three Stooges thing with the like clone of himself,
The
Evil Ash.
Yes, Evil Ash, and then
That was
also
good.
the little Ashes.
The little ashes.
The little
yeah.
ashes are
was
great.
That was kind of cool.
yeah,
But the
him
I-
versus himself.
Evil Dead, or I think the Army of Darkness was the better of the three, but it was super old.
Well,
it was super
what's-
cheesy. I don't know. I
What's
couldn't get
super
into it.
weird is if you go and watch the first one, and let's say you have no experience with Evil Dead at all, and you just watch the first one, and then even if you watch the second one, but when you jump to the third one, it is a completely different genre. It goes from horror to comedy horror, and part of that is because the first one, when they were trying to make this gruesome horror movie where they even have a tree rape a girl, they came off campy, and people like us love that shit. We want to be able to laugh at some stuff. It doesn't need to be this giant horror movie that needs to scare us to the end of the earth. There are other movies for that. Sam Raimi found his niche with this type of campiness. So, Mike, if you didn't have to do the podcast, now you said you saw Army of Darkness years ago, though.
Yeah, but I didn't remember it. I mean,
Sure.
I remember like seeing it, but it's the same thing as like if you watch I watched Dragonheart forever ago,
Mhm.
and I know that I kind of liked it at the time, but it was also
Great
kind of
movie.
corny and cheesy. But I couldn't tell you anything about it.
I just remember the voice
Yeah,
of
Sean
the
Connery.
dragon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
it's fucking.
but it's like
Sean
I remember
Connery.
it
Yeah.
being cheesy at the time, and I'm sure if I watch it now, I'd be like, "Oh my god, this is miserable."
I remember in that movie, Dennis Quaid is the knight, and then they're fighting, and he's about to get like swallowed by the dragon, and he stabs a sword in the roof of his mouth, and so like all night long they're just standing there because the dragon doesn't want to bite down and have the sword go through his head, and then the knight's stuck there. So
Because he
Just
doesn't
good.
want to pull the sword out.
right,
and
get eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great. They
Becomes
just
a bit
argue
of a
back and
battle of
forth all
wills.
night.
Yeah.
So again, I can remember movies like that, but like if it's been a very, very long time, like I don't remember how good or bad it really is.
So I guess my question would have been then, even though you had seen it, if we ignore that you had seen it ago because you've forgotten about it, if it wasn't for this podcast, you probably would have never watched these movies.
No,
I didn't
probably
think
not.
so. Yeah. What about the TV show?
TV show was great.
I understand that, but would you have watched it if it wasn't for the
I
podcast?
already started watching Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched like the first episode, and I don't one about another. I couldn't get into it like right off the bat.
Yeah.
And then like I just one of those shows like I feel like you have to give it a couple episodes, and I didn't.
Well, if you're a huge fan like I was, I needed to give it about 2 minutes, and then I was hooked on that show. When he's trying to get looking nice in the mirror of his, what is that? His little trailer, and then he goes to the bar and tries to hook up with chicks. Hilarious, and it fit Ash's character.
Right.
Well, at least Ash's character in Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
From that one moving on. The first two, not so much, but from Army of Darkness moving forward, it definitely fit his character. And I was like, cool, I'm gung-ho for this show. Let's go. The best part about that show, too, besides for Ash, was they introduced good characters.
Yeah.
Like having
Kelly.
Ruby, Kelly,
Pablo.
Pablo. Yep, thank you.
Pablitos Tacos. I love that.
So they had a really good job of having a good cast of characters to bring along with Ash. I feel like that was something missing from the movies, because in the first one, they just all die, and then he survives. In the second one, they all die, and he survives.
Was Bruce Campbell in anything before Evil Dead?
I don't know if he was in
Like, I feel
anything
like all-
He
before.
wasn't in anything major.
Yeah,
But-
so like all
well,
the
none of his
characters
movies were
in
major.
Evil Dead are like nobody.
Yeah.
Like there's just 4 random actors.
Well, it was a low-budget film,
They had
too.
great
Oh, I could
characters,
tell.
though, in Army of Darkness. I love Henry the Red, and the King was really good character, too.
What made them good characters?
Well, it's
Henry the Red was just, I just liked him. I thought he was funny.
he was barely in the movie.
Yeah, I was
He
gonna
was
say.
great when he was in it.
I'm
though.
just saying he was like barely in there. He's in the line as being a slave, and then he comes to the end to help
To
with a
save
battle,
him,
and
yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Love him.
He's in the movie for all of like 6 minutes.
I just like the scene where they're waiting to be thrown in the pit and executed, and he's like, "Be brave," and Ash is like, "I'm not even with this guy."
But that's part of the campy humor stuff that I felt like Sam Raimi did really well in this type of movie. And so for you guys, not so much Mike, because he didn't really get into it as much as we did. But
I want your opinion, but I don't want his opinion because he
I
doesn't
just don't,
like it.
I don't think you're going to be able to answer the question. I think that's more of my point. Like, so Corey watched Army of Darkness
Forever ago.
No, multiple times growing up. And then for me, so did I. I watched all of them multiple times. I wanted more, and I never got more. I also thought Bruce Campbell was going to be more of a mainstream actor because of these movies, too. And he wasn't. He's had a good career, but he didn't blow up. He's not a Tom Cruise type character. But were you hoping there were going to be more stuff before eventually, obviously we got more. We got another movie, we got the TV show, we got another movie coming. Were you hoping for more, or were you just satisfied with Army of Darkness?
I think it was a different time period too, where like a lot of times you got one movie and that was it, or you got a trilogy that was established. You weren't always thinking like this is going to turn into a franchise. And now like everything is like, can we make a sequel? Can we do a franchise for this? So I don't think I was ever thinking, man, I want more of this. I think if anything, I thought that after finishing the series, I was like, ooh, Ash in the future. I want to see this.
See, I
And-
think the only reason that they did Ash in the future at the end of the series is because that's what they were supposed to do in the alternate ending of Army of Darkness, and because the series was ending. I think that's the only reason they did that. That wasn't their plan to begin with. I think they probably would have done more.
regardless of why, once I saw it, I
Sure.
wanted it. So
But you should have seen that in the alternate ending of Army of Darkness too.
yeah,
So, did you want that then too, to see him in the future?
I don't remember I might not have seen the alternate ending.
Yeah, in the
so-
alternate ending, instead of him taking the potion and instantly waking back up in his time, he's told to take 3 drops of it, and he ends up taking 4. So then he ends up sleeping like another 1,000 years, and ends up waking like 1,000 years past his timeline. And the world is basically collapsed and all this other stuff.
Actually, I might have seen that, but the one I remember, I think more is he's back in the store, right?
Yeah, that's the actual one.
Yeah. That's the
That's
one
the
I
actual
remember the
ending.
most. But I do think I saw he took too many drops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you see why, Mike, you probably couldn't answer that question? You didn't watch it when you were a kid growing up. I don't know if you wanted more. But now that you have watched the movies and you're into season 2 of the TV show. Now, there's only, 3 seasons?
3 seasons, yeah.
Now, it's going to end after the next season for you. Do you wish there was more to watch? Do you wish it was like a 5, 6, 7 series?
I mean, it's good, but when it ends, it ends. That's not going to bother me. I don't think it's like 100. Like, it's getting a pretty good rating. It's a good show, but
it just lives up to what the name of Evil Dead is. And I think that's one of the reasons it scored so highly. It's not trying to be anything other than what Evil Dead is.
Well, that part I don't understand, because Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are not like Ash vs. Evil Dead. The story is the same, but the movie style and acting is completely different.
Well, that's one of the things I said in the early going of saying, like, if you went back now and watched Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, and then went to the later ones, it's a completely different genre
right,
of
so
what they're trying
how
to
is
do.
it living up to something that it's not anything like?
Because one of the reasons that the first one was liked and became a cult classic was because instead of it being an all-out horror, people saw it, like I saw it, as being exaggerated and being campy, and that's what I enjoyed. It wasn't their intention to necessarily do it like that. Same thing with the second one. It wasn't necessarily intentional to make it like that, but it still was. When you have a dancing skeleton with his dead girlfriend and all these other scenes that are more comical than they necessarily intended, and then because of that and because of the cult following the movie had, Sam Raimi just leaned into it hard for Army of Darkness to the point where everything's a joke, everything's campy, which I loved. And so then the series took that and actually made it what you wanted. That's where living up to the story. Now, if you just want a necessarily like horror movie, you can watch the remake in 2013, where it has a different group of characters that go to a cabin, read a book, and then a bunch of bad stuff happens, and that's more horror. That's the version that Sam Raimi wanted to do, the original one, without it feeling campy. And it doesn't live up to it because I like the campiness. It's a fine horror movie.
I just rewatched it today. I think you'll like that more if you're looking for like an actual horror movie. It's a horror movie.
Yeah, it's absolutely a horror movie.
But it's also if you like Ash vs. Evil Dead and Army of Darkness and you're looking for that, it ain't it. So
no, it definitely
is.
It's
probably why it didn't really do that well.
No. And then there was talk for a long time about them doing a crossover with that girl, Mia. I think her name Mia is the main character of that movie with Bruce Campbell's Ash character in a future movie or even within the TV show. It just never happened, unfortunately.
I feel like they're trying to get a lot of genres into one franchise.
Well, I mean, it's just horror and comedy. They have a lot of horror comedies out there. What other genre are you thinking?
Well, you said that Evil Dead was supposed to be a horror, but then it ended up not being a horror.
Well, it's still listed as a horror, but the fans saw it as more campy than horror.
I feel like it's not a good thing for a movie, though.
I agree with you. It's not.
That's why he tried to do like, let's make a Marvel superhero movie, and then it ends up being a love movie.
Well, they have. Look at Thor, the latest Thor one that was tried to be a Marvel movie, and then it became a Taika Waititi movie, and it wasn't that good.
I feel like that's not even like the far stretch of that. Like I can't call a movie good if you're trying to go for one thing and the critics liked it for being something else. Like,
well, no, the critics liked it for being the horror.
It's not a horror though.
The first one is.
Nah. It's not though.
I mean, it literally is.
It's not a horror. It's like it's not scary at all. It's just like
in 1981 that scared the shit out of people.
Stupid people.
We're just talking about like 43 years or
people
41
in the
years.
80s were pussies.
Like I said, I liked.
Weren't we born in the 80s?
Army of Darkness.
People who were watching that movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I liked it better than the second one. The second one is definitely even worse, and they were still going for like the same like horror-ness, and it's still not jokey on purpose.
So part of the reason for Evil Dead 2, so after the first one had a bit of a
like
success,
I wish you'd have started me off and being like, hey man, we're gonna do a thing on Evil Dead. Watch Ash first, Army of Darkness, and then if you want to, you can watch Evil Dead 1 and 2, but they are only gonna have like everything that can be summed up in watching Army of Darkness. Or sorry, Ash vs. Evil Dead. I apologize.
Right, yeah.
So you can watch the series of Ash vs. Evil Dead, and then if you want to have some of the backstory, just watch Army of Darkness. And then if you really want to fuck up how the storyline goes, then you can watch regular Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, which is everything is based on.
Most people watch a show or a series or movies in order.
True, but like you can literally skip watching you can skip watching what the movie is based on and still know exactly what's going on and not feel like you wasted 2 hours of your life.
But part of that is what you should have for it. If you take a movie and turn it into a TV show, that's what you should have. You shouldn't necessarily have to watch the movies. That's how you get broad appeal.
Well, you can watch Army of Darkness without watching the first two. And
that's what I'm saying.
Understand.
Like the first 5 minutes of Army of Darkness
explains everything.
It goes over the first 2 movies. I actually turned on Army of Darkness and I was like, "You mean I could have just like not watched the first 2 movies at all?"
Well, that's what the
Army
second movie
of Darkness
does.
was good. Like, don't get me wrong. I liked that more than I liked the first one and the second one. I liked the first one more than I liked the second one, which is generally not what you like. You like the newer one more than older ones.
I usually like the first one.
The
first one
originals?
usually holds up more than the sequel.
Well, true, but like over time, like film gets better, acting gets better, like your CGI gets better.
He's talking like the time jump from 91 to 81 is significant in like the quality of filmmaking.
Right.
81 to 87.
Like
Army of Darkness, I'm talking about.
Oh,
watching like a movie from like 2012 as opposed to watching a movie filmed today, like the cinematography is going to be better. The acting is going to be better.
Should be better. There are some out there that aren't.
True, but you're saying Evil Dead had a very low budget.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing Evil 2 had a higher budget.
Yes.
And it was a worse movie.
Cinematography wise and story wise and yada yada yada, you're saying across the board?
Yeah.
Okay. I like Evil Dead 1 more than I like Evil Dead 2, but
True,
Evil Dead 2
had a higher budget.
That is irrelevant. Evil Dead 2 is just, to me, just a continuation of the first one. Like, if you took out the first 10 minutes of Evil Dead 2 and put it right at the end of Evil Dead 1, it's literally just a continuation. It becomes a 2.5 hour movie rather than an hour and 15-minute movie.
Why did they have to rewrite the other characters not being in it?
Again, as we discussed before the podcast aired, they didn't own the rights to the movie script. So,
okay, but so they didn't own the rights to the movie script, but they did everything else in the movie script except add 2 characters.
No, they didn't do everything else. They modified a lot of stuff.
He went to a cabin with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she got killed.
He killed her. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
That's the same thing that happens in the first one.
Yeah, but you didn't own the rights to it, so they couldn't show you like a preview clip. So they had to retcon it and basically put you exactly where they were.
Yeah, the second one sucks.
I mean, again, it doesn't suck.
I mean,
it just isn't
good.
as good as what you wanted. But again, critics love the movie, and the person that paid the money for them to do the movie loved the movie. So this year, obviously, they announced there was going to be a new movie, and they announced, and then they had their video game came out. So are we thinking that that's connected, and it's a little bit of them trying to have a resurgence in the Evil Dead world? Or is it just happenstance of what we're doing because of everything that happened with the pandemic? And otherwise, it might have been a couple years in between them.
I feel like they're picking up on a lot of the nostalgia cult classic stuff from like the 80s. Like Stranger Things is wildly popular. A lot of it has to do with the time period that it's portraying that a lot of people like Dungeons and Dragons in the 80s.
Sure, but that's not what Evil Dead is portraying, or Ash vs. Evil Dead isn't portraying the 80s.
Right, but it's a cult classic,
Yeah.
and like a lot of people have the nostalgia of liking the cult classic, so it's a good time to have a resurgence of things like that.
I think it's also like Ash vs. Evil Dead has been doing really good on Netflix, and I think part of it too is like Ash is not Ash would not be accepted as a new character
today. Yeah, that's 100%
and I think it's
correct.
refreshing to see a character from like when you grew up who just, wasn't some PC guy.
Yeah, very.
He didn't mature with the times.
No,
he just stayed
no.
who he was.
And we accept him still.
Oh,
For
he's
it,
so
it's-
fucking funny.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's like refreshing just to be like, oh yeah, that's back when we could take a joke.
Do you want to tell you what one of your favorite jokes from Ash vs. Evil Dead? When Ash is talking to Pablo?
I can't. I was going to, but I can't remember. It's there in the car. I can't remember. You tell.
Doesn't he say that he wants to go get? He wants to get some type of Mexican food.
Yeah.
But Pablo's not actually Mexican. He's like Dominican or something.
Yeah. He goes. I'm
He's
Puerto
from-
Rican.
Puerto Rico.
Rican,
Yeah.
No, he's from Honduras.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. And he wants to get margaritas.
Oh, margaritas.
He's like, next margaritas are on you. And he's like, I'm not Mexican.
That's the spirit,
That's
Pablo.
the spirit. Yeah, I guess that's the spirit, Pablo.
And there's little jokes like that he does through the whole thing. I do like that the other characters call him out on it, though, especially Kelly.
Yeah.
But still kind of goes, he's lovable.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with Ash vs. Evil Dead has nothing to do with the show, has to do with where the show actually aired, which was on Stars.
Yeah, I know.
Which is a pain in the ass because let's say that show did air on Netflix, especially with how well it's been doing on Netflix. I almost guaranteed that we would have had more than 3 seasons. There's even an interview with Bruce Campbell where he's talking, where people are coming up to him and being like, I just saw Ash vs. Evil Dead. I'm so glad you're still doing it. And he's like, that was like 5 years ago. That's where these are just old TV shows that's now on Netflix.
So
Like,
I'm
we're not doing it
excited.
anymore.
He had an interview. I don't remember when it was, 2021 sometime, but I was at a Comic-Con and they were talking about will he ever come back, and he said no because my body can't take it anymore. He's like, I'm so beat up from all the stunts over the years. But he said we are, however, considering doing an animated series that would take off where Ash vs. Evil Dead ended, and I would voice that character, because it would just be voice acting. He's like, my body can't do it, but my voice can.
Sure, of course his voice can.
So I'd be pretty stoked about that.
I will say one of the best things about him, as you mentioned, one of the things that we liked about him was he was kind of not the PC character.
Yeah.
He also isn't the typical Marvel, I'm all jacked and in shape. He's this fat, overweight, white guy who sometimes wears a girdle so he can try to go hook up with a chick. I think that was refreshing for a lot of people
hero,
too.
Isn't
He is
KJ?
my fucking hero.
You mean you don't have to be in shape to be a hero? I think the Juggernaut had you covered on that one.
Yeah, that's fair. But no, it's that type of character, and if he's just now doing the voice work for it, I'll be a little bit concerned if they pick up where the other one ended, although it would be very Evil Dead-esque if they retcon that ending again too, and did something different rather than being in the future. I don't want to see 1,000 years. I want to see what happens with Pablo, Kelly, all those characters, his daughter.
You won't.
What, they all ended up jumping to the future?
Well, maybe they're the ones who put him in the pod, and then so they put themselves in pods.
Yeah,
too.
maybe. I don't know. It
not
just
that
seems like
far-fetched.
it's... I don't know. I feel like you might then just have to introduce new characters. And
Dude, I
if
want to
they
see
do
him
it in a
interact
certain
with the
way-
female robot chick that wakes him up, because he's
yeah.
just going to constantly be like, you want to be? Are you a pleasure bot? Like,
Well, I did love that. So he tried to like hook up with Kelly for the first few episodes, and then basically became almost like a father figure who still kind of hit on her constantly.
Yeah.
Without actually necessarily meaning it, because he knew that Pablo liked her. And then he just, that machismo that he had, or machismo, throughout the whole series with trying to hook up with the cop in the first season. Then in the...
He hits on Ruby like the whole time.
as she's trying to kill him, still is making jokes and everything. It's fantastic.
Do I save her life because I have to, or do I save her life because she's really hot?
It's a legitimate question, Mike. It's a legitimate question.
Sometimes you get asked that.
Yep.
I'd be a terrible firefighter.
Which room do I save? Let's open the door. Let's see what they're working with. All right, we're going to shut this door. We're going to go over there.
Sorry, Granny, you're out second.
So with Ash, well, let's say this. So you didn't really like Mike at Evil Dead 1 and 2, and it sounds like Corey.
I liked Evil Dead 1 was good for the time,
Mhm.
yeah.
but it was like very over the top gory, to the point where I didn't think they really needed to do that much, but that was what they were going for.
Ash vs. Evil Dead is like that too, though.
Yeah, like I feel like they do it in that just to be over the top. Like,
well, they do, yeah.
So like Evil Dead, if you're trying to make like a legitimate horror movie, you don't like use a super soaker full of blood to like every time like he cuts into. That was the other thing that got me in all of the quote unquote horror movies of Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Every time that they would like be absolutely covered in blood, the next scene they just have like a couple of stains on their shirt.
Well, that's
completely cleaned up.
That's just movies back then. They didn't have so much with continuity.
So KJ and I went and saw Ash vs. Evil Dead the musical back in like.
Well, we went twice.
What was the first time? The second time is
the
where they
second
had the
time
water,
was
right?
Well, no, they both technically had it. So
wasn't that you guys were up front or something?
Yeah. So in 2016 or 2017, Corey and I went to see Ash vs. Evil Dead the play. It was great. We laughed our asses
they had
off.
Deadites that came to the crowd.
Really hot chicks that were dressed up as zombies, giving people somewhat lamp dances. It was just a really fun night. And so we heard they were doing it again in 2019.
I get my lap dances from alive people.
We heard they were doing it again in 2019, this time in Bangor, and we were like, well, we have to go. We have to go. So we decided to go, and this year they were doing... I
got an invite to that.
You might have, but
you said you were going to go, and then you gave me like the down low of what it was after you came back.
So we went into the splash zone.
Yeah.
Or the soak zone, because there was 3 zones: soak, splash, and then you're fine. And what we imagined it was during the bloody scenes, you were gonna get like sprayed with blood all over you,
and that's what it was supposed to be. They had like this pipe with little holes drilled in that was supposed to spray blood out, but I guess it stopped working halfway through the first show. But so what ended up happening is every time you were supposed to get covered in blood.
Not just blood, because in the very beginning, they're driving with a car and they go over a puddle.
Yeah. So basically,
and a guy with a bucket just came.
There was just this dickhead with a bucket, and he would stand next to you and just get ready to throw. And you could see him about to throw it on you.
They weren't hiding,
and it was cold water in the middle of winter, and he just dumped it on you. And I brought we brought ponchos.
Yeah,
and it just soaked through everything.
You bought a poncho.
It did not help.
No, he wasn't even a poncho. You bought a painter's suit because you couldn't find a poncho.
That's true too.
And the painter's suit did nothing. It went right through it. But I'm also thinking it was supposed to be the like blood for TV shows where it's like the syrup. That's what I was expecting.
It's just water.
And
just cold water.
Yes. And it soaked us. Within the first bucket, you're drenched, and then you're there for another hour and a half plus intermission.
And halfway through, we were just like, "Fuck you, guy!" Every time he gets the bucket, because he wasn't subtle. It wasn't like he was hiding and jumped out and threw it at you. At least then it would be like, "Oh, when's it gonna happen?"
Yep.
It'd be like he'd be sitting in his chair.
Maybe next time you guys should move to the splash zone.
Ugh, I don't know.
So the splash zone would have been better in the sense of you still would have got a little wet, but it would have been just here, there.
Right. So when someone says you're in the soak zone, you didn't take them seriously.
I thought, again, I don't mind. I wore the white shirt that I had.
When you order a cheeseburger and you want a little pink, are you surprised when it comes with a little pink?
There's a big difference between
being
thinking
soaked?
You're going to get soaked in water and then getting soaked with the fake blood. That's what I was expecting.
It was supposed to spray out, and it would have been kind of cool, but instead it was just literally a
bucket of water.
5-gallon bucket of water. This guy was just dumping on
Think of the ice bucket challenge in the winter.
You're sad that they didn't add a little bit of red.
No, I'm sad
it just should be the consistency of that, which means it's going to be 1, less cold. 2, it's not going to just pour right
my
through
blood
your clothing.
covering me. It's got to be warm.
That's right.
A dead hooker.
I want to feel like they just murdered that person.
All I know is I brought a change of clothes, and I went out to my car, and I couldn't even change it. Like I wrapped up
frozen.
Dude, I changed in the front seat of my car in the middle of the night.
I thought you didn't bring a change of clothes, and you had to look through your back, and you were like, "Oh, thank God, I have some other clothes back
true.
here."
I had gym clothes.
You had brought the poncho / painter suit because you're like, "Oh, this will do the trick, no problem."
Yeah, but it sucked. I was sitting in my car like having hypothermia, wrapped in a blanket while I'm waiting for the heat to kick on, and I left like 3/4 of the way
No,
through.
you left her at intermission.
Oh,
you
yeah,
did
yeah.
not
I was
come
like,
back.
I'm not coming back because I'd already seen the show, and honestly, the first one was a lot better anyway.
It
just
was,
acting
but
wise.
part of it, I think almost immediately, as soon as we got soaked by that first bucket,
It ruined
our
it.
mood just completely changed from yeah to oh, for fuck's sake. The play was really good the first time, and the second time, I still feel like it wasn't. I can't tell if it would have been better if we didn't get soaked.
Well, they also did Clue,
Oh,
and that
God.
sucked too. So I literally think the first time was just better because they had a better cast.
Well, the first one was with Clue. It was a bad story, especially when you're trying to like when we
Did
went
Colonel
and saw.
Mustard get killed in the observatory?
I don't think we saw anybody get killed, but we ended up leaving at intermission for that one too
Yeah,
because
it
it was
sucked.
so bad.
Yeah.
And when
So-
This is not an endorsement for
Don't
some
go
theater company.
don't go to plays is what they're saying.
well,
No,
like
honestly,
the first one was great.
And if you're in the soak zone,
Yeah, don't do that.
prepare
Don't
to
do
get
that.
soaked.
The first one, he kind of like convinced me to go because I'm not a musical guy, and it's a musical, and I was like, "This is gonna be."
You're
so
not a
dumb.
musical guy?
No, like
Oh, yet he sings and whistles all the time.
Oh,
He's
I
not
was
a
gonna
musical
say,
guy.
I don't like watching a movie that's like a bunch of singing.
Well, this is going to be a clip.
Yeah,
Corey's musical.
Yeah, I convinced Corey to go because my former boss was the put on the music for the show.
yeah,
And we both loved Evil Dead.
yeah.
And the first one was so good. Like, we enjoyed it. We laughed. It was a really well done production. And then,
Yeah.
So then, why? If you really liked it, you should have just stopped right there. At
Well,
the
we were like,
pinnacle.
oh, I
We
get to
thought
go
it would
again
be-
3 years
Stopped
later.
at the pinnacle.
We thought it would be like as good.
Yeah.
But you know,
It's like
different
watching a
casts.
movie again that's really good. And you're like, well, I'm going to still like it. It wasn't.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Well, most, you're sitting at home watching a movie. Somebody doesn't walk by the bucket and just throw it on you.
Yeah.
Unless you have a taller at home.
When you're watching Evil Dead next time, let me know. I'm just gonna show up at your house.
Well, trust me, I will not be watching it again.
The show?
Oh, he'll probably
That's
finish
Ash
the
vs.
show.
Evil Dead.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Isn't
different.
that what I said?
No, you said
No.
Evil Dead.
Oh,
He said next time you watch Evil Dead, and I
Mhm.
will not be watching it.
okay.
It's accurate.
I will say I very much enjoyed the game that they came out with.
Yeah, it's way more fun than it should be. You go and look at other games that have tried to fit in that genre of Freddy has a game, Jason has a game, and it's just them, and everybody stopped playing it after a little bit. And
Yeah, so I think the game is cool, but to answer your question you asked earlier about if I think it's going to be like a revitalization of the franchise, like between the game and the new movie, I don't think they are going to be successful if they try to bring back movies and TV shows in a lot of them anyway, because you'll be missing Ash, and I think Ash is
What makes the franchise. Yeah,
I don't think you can do
absolutely.
it without him. And I think even worse is if you try to recast Ash or like have another Ash character, because I'm gonna hate it. Like, there's only one Bruce
well,
Campbell.
we are getting another movie next year.
I understand, but what I mean is like that movie will come out. I don't really foresee it being like the start of something big of like, oh, we're gonna have another movie and another movie.
So you said they're coming out with a new game, or there is a
No,
game?
there is a
there
game
is a
that's on
game that came
Xbox.
out in May. It's
You
also
could
on
get it,
PlayStation.
and we could all play.
Especially now that you got the Xbox Series X.
Pretty sweet.
Oh,
It is fun.
Yeah, it's a lot.
is it
of
like one of those free downloads, or do you have to pay for it?
fun. You got to pay for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it's on Game Pass.
I think it's like $40.
As we wrap up this podcast, let's talk about the new movie.
Podcast.
I know I butchered that, didn't I? Let's talk about the new movie. So
Okay.
it's Evil Dead Rise.
I haven't seen like anything about
Well,
it yet.
there's nothing to see
That's
about
my
it.
point. So
Yes.
I don't really have much content. I'm excited for it.
Good. How about I talk about what I've seen and then you can
I thought you
react
said
to
nothing's
it.
come out yet.
Nothing has come out to it like a trailer, but there's information about it.
No.
And we've sent each other stuff about it, so I don't know how you haven't seen anything about it, but that's neither here nor there. With this movie, we're going to see
It's the
it
same
not
cast,
being
right?
in a... God, you're fucking dumb. We're gonna
Got Bruce
be
Campbell?
in a high-rise apartment.
Yeah.
It's not in a cabin. It's not out in the woods. So how do you feel that's going to compare to a... Because it's not supposed to be like Ash versus Evil Dead, where they're just deadites are everywhere. It's supposed to feel kind of like the first one where it's all confined to one area, but now we're talking about a high-rise apartment. So
What if it's like an apartment building full? They're at the top and they have to work their way to the bottom.
Well, that's a whole other movie. That's
Judge Dredd.
No, well,
he has to work his way to the top.
Yeah, but no, there's another movie about it being full of zombies and literally they have to get from the top floor all the way to the bottom. It's a Japanese movie. But I don't know if that's going to be the premise of them having to do that or just try to survive or get out. But how do you think that the place that they're doing it compares to the cabin?
I have a theory.
Oh, let's hear the theory.
It's going to be good.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I was actually
Yes!
buying in to the theory.
It's funny. When he went to you, I was just going to be say it will be good. Say it will be good.
I was actually
And you did it,
completely
goddamn it.
buying in. Completely buying in.
You got his hopes up.
I did. I was like,
well,
well, if someone's actually going to contribute to this podcast, let's hear it. What's your theory?
No, we're not contributing now.
No.
So
God, no.
I think honestly that it's going to be very much like Evil Dead 2013 was, in the sense that it's not going to be the campy stuff that we want.
See, I don't, with Bruce Campbell being an executive director, I can't see it not being campy.
But so what I don't know. I think the problem is you don't have a Bruce Campbell character, so it's hard to do campy.
Well, I mean, you just have to introduce new characters that potentially can do campy.
Who have they casted for the movie?
Alyssa Sutherland and Lily Sullivan.
Who's the main character? Who's the Ash?
There is
Who's
no
Ashley?
Ash.
Where's the Ashley?
There is no Ashley.
Fuck.
Isn't it just
We've
called
got
Evil Dead
Ellie.
Rise?
Yes.
Well, you said earlier it was called like Rise Up or
He
something.
just
Yeah,
said it
and
was
then
Evil
I
Dead
corrected
Rise.
myself just 2 minutes ago. You just don't listen.
'Cause he's on
You
his
know
phone.
what?
So
You
we've got, because
cop
he was
the
on his
attitude.
phone, exactly. So we have an Ellie, a Beth, a Jessica, an Equals, and then the guys don't have official names yet.
Alyssa Sutherland is in Vikings, if you've seen Vikings.
Which character?
She's the one who Ragnar marries, the like Viking princess that he marries.
The second one, his
the really
second
tall
wife.
one, not Lagatha, but the
Not
second
Lagatha.
wife.
Yeah,
Okay, the
The one that
darker
gives
hair.
The one
birth
who
to Ivor.
the one who
boneless.
sleeps with the guy.
The god guy.
Yeah, the god guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, she's in a bunch of stuff though. I've seen her in other stuff, and then Lily Sullivan looks familiar too. I just don't know. Or never mind. Now she doesn't.
Yeah, I've never seen any of the movies that she's been in.
Yeah, she looked familiar in one picture, and then now not so much.
Yeah, she's an Australian actress, so I got nothing.
Never
So
mind.
she's from down under.
Yes. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm more concerned because obviously the cabin in the woods aspect felt like you were secluded, and they tried to run away in the first movie, but obviously the bridge was out.
Right.
So how are they going to do that with this? Is it going to be that they're on the top floor and
Well,
then they
if
can't
you're
get down?
if you're on a high rise, it's very hard to get out unless you go down.
Sure, but is the Deadites just randomly down there?
Well, if the Deadites are like all through the thing, all through the building, and they somehow turn off the elevator, like if they cut the power,
Yeah, that could do
it's
it.
a long way
Yeah.
down with no power.
I don't know if
Deadites-
you've ever seen the Deadites cut the power.
They
but
could just like not let.
Well, you've never
doors
seen
open.
Deadites in an apartment building either, though.
They could just keep doors
true.
from being able to be opened, like they. do
Oh,
that.
with the supernatural
Yeah,
psychic
that's what I
ability.
mean, Like,
But
I
I don't know if that lends itself to feeling, or maybe it actually lends itself more to feeling alone when you're actually not alone. There's other buildings, there's hundreds of thousands of people outside, yet you can't get to them to save your life because this force is keeping you inside.
I mean, I'm excited for it either way. It'll probably definitely be good, as Mike said. So,
But are you only excited about it because you like Evil Dead?
well, yeah.
Okay.
Why? If I didn't know Evil Dead or like Evil Dead, I probably wouldn't be excited for it.
That's kind of was my point. There's other.
I know, but that's an obvious point. I
It's
guess
not
is my point.
not really. The
I
first
hate
time.
Evil Dead. I'm not excited for it.
How many movies were you excited to see Free Guy?
Yeah.
Of course you were. Why wouldn't you be? It sounded like a great story and a great thing. So this movie, if you didn't know anything about the past of the other Evil Deads, would a story like this interest you?
Yes.
Okay, that was the question. What do you guys, I don't know if you knew this, Mike, but this
I don't
movie
know
was
it.
supposed to be released on HBO Max. Like right to HBO Max, not in the theaters.
Okay.
Now it's coming out to theaters in April of next year. How do you feel about that? Is this a movie you'd go, besides for the probably because of podcast, and Corey and I are big fans of Evil Dead, would you go see this yourself in theaters if it wasn't for potentially this podcast or our friendships?
I'd have to see how like the trailer is. Like if it looks good, then I'll watch it. If it doesn't, if it looks like something that like isn't going to be really good, I don't like going to the movies. Like you guys like going to the movie theaters. I much more enjoy watching movies at my own house.
Sure, but if you're talking about like 3 to 6 months until the movie comes out to a streaming service or to DVD, that's why I like going to the movie theater, because I don't like to wait. I'm impatient.
Yeah, I'm not impatient at all.
Oh.
So like if it's something that like looks like it's going to be okay, you know, if it's worth watching at the movie theater, then I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Or if it's something like I really have to know how the story is. Like a lot of the Marvel movies are like continuances in like a, you know, in a universe that I want to know what the story is. Like Evil Dead, this sounds like it's going to be like a completely new rewrite. If it looks like it's going to be good, maybe I'll go see it at the movies. If it looks like it's going to be something that's like okay, like it's much easier for me to just watch it at home.
Yeah, my bigger pull for movies is usually, do I think this movie is going to be made better by seeing it on the big screen with the, you know, big surround and everything.
Right.
But,
Although we've seen a lot of movies that made no difference for that. We just wanted to see a movie.
well, I understand, but also a lot of times it's like, because you're like, let's go see this movie, and I'm like, all right, I got nothing else going on.
Well,
so.
you wanted, what was that? It's somewhat horrible, kind of funny horror movie with, what's his name from Wedding Crashers?
Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, where he played the villain.
Yeah.
And he switched
Freaky.
bodies with the girl. Was
Freaky.
that what it's called? Freaky?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was hey, you want to go see Freaky?
Yeah, I might have just been bored that day.
Yeah. But that's not a movie like Avatar
Did you
is a
see that
movie.
was awful?
It was okay.
Freaky? I didn't think it was awful.
It had
What's the one that you watched on your birthday?
Oh, on his
That was
birthday,
Harry
that was Harry
Potter.
Potter.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, that was
That
so
was
bad.
awful.
Right.
And I still haven't seen the movie with Nicolas Cage yet.
The
yeah.
impossible something.
No.
The
unimaginable
weight of massive talent.
Yeah.
Still got to see that.
I have it. I've been trying to watch it, but it doesn't really...
We've still been waiting for the invite.
Well,
We've been talking about it since April and May.
Yeah, we already had a movie night without you.
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
There was a lot of popcorn.
Not like I can
holding-
invite you. Janie works.
Yeah.
A lot of popcorn and holding hands.
There was some holding hands. It felt nice. I mean, it was my
KJ
own
I was
hand.
going to say,
but-
he was holding his own hands. But
So you don't, for this movie, Corey, as you just mentioned, that your barometer seems to be, is the movie going to be worth it seeing on big screen compared to seeing it at your own house? How do you think Evil Dead fits into that? Or do you think you have to wait for the trailer like Mike said?
I imagine you're going to want to see it anyway, and I'll probably go see it.
Oh,
with
I'm
you.
going regardless. I just meant
Yeah.
for you.
I'm just saying, like, I probably won't even think about it because
Oh, okay.
you're going to be like, let's go see it. And I'm going to be like, why not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Saw. Like
Yeah.
Saw, we probably didn't need to see any of those in the theater, but I'm going to go to the theater and see them. It's
Yeah.
my favorite horror franchise.
Now, that one I've not gone with you because I don't really care that much.
You went and
so.
saw Jigsaw or Spiral with me.
I saw Spiral, but that's not. I know that's from the book of Saw, but you went and saw. I don't know what the ones were before that, but you asked me.
Jigsaw.
Okay, yeah, you
Jigsaw
asked me
was
about
the last
that
one
one. I
before
did
that.
not go see that with you.
I don't
though
even
you
remember
invited me.
asking you to go that because I was up in Bangor to see that one with
I
Matt.
know, but you had asked me like, "Are you gonna want to go see this?" Because I'm gonna see this up here, and I was like, "No, I don't care."
I love Saw. Saw is
Yeah,
such
I
a
like
good
the first one and even the second
So-
one.
yeah,
but
first
like,
and two
after
were
that,
so good.
I don't really care. I'll see it when it comes out if I bored one day.
It's
Spiral, I was excited about because Chris Rock, and I thought it sounded kind of cool.
just Samuel L. Jackson.
see, that's what I thought too. That's why I was asking about
It's-
Spiral. I
it's
haven't
decent.
seen it.
I own it. I can let you borrow it.
Perfect.
So let me ask this question as we wrap up this podcast. If they convinced Bruce Campbell to come back as Ash, would
Yes,
you
I'd
rather
watch it.
see a movie or would you rather see a TV show?
Series.
TV show.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it because you get more of it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They can flesh out the story considerably better. I like series way
Also,
more
I
than
think
movies.
it's likely that a TV show could run a couple seasons because the budget's not as high. I think a movie would not be successful enough to warrant a sequel. So I'd rather have a series that has potential for more seasons than a movie that's probably going to get one.
And a series that are hopefully on like a Netflix, a Hulu, where it's got the eyes, unlike Stars, where it didn't have any eyes.
HBO would be actually my pick,
HBO
just because
would be
they
good.
would give them a better budget, probably.
HBO would be good.
Yeah. I think it would fit good on HBO too, because it's got a lot more adult programming anyway. And then
Right.
I don't think now's the time for it, just with their cutbacks, with everything they're doing, because they're about to merge with Discovery,
sure,
I think
but
it is.
yeah.
But yes, I agree with you.
And
Before
it
this
would
all
be-
happened, it would make sense.
And it would be a good twist up from like what they currently have going on there.
Right, more serious drama stuff.
Right.
Yeah, this would be a horror comedy.
Like they had a really good show that I was really excited about called The Brink. Jack Black was in it, and
About almost going to war.
with
the political
basically the
side of it.
staffer
Yeah.
like gets involved with like deciding if they're gonna nuke a country and stuff. And
What's his name from Shawshank?
I know, I can't think of
Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins. Yeah.
Yeah. It was great.
It was
too.
it was
I liked
really good.
it.
I enjoyed it. They canceled it after like one season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would do well now. I think just at the time it was not
Too spot on.
well.
Too on the nose.
I think it was also in that weird kind of time period where HBO didn't have HBO Plus or anything, so it was like
Max. They had the HBO.
but it was mainly the people who were watching HBO were purchased to watch it on TV.
Yeah.
And that was already on its way out.
Yep.
Now that there's a big push into streaming, if it was put on HBO Max as streaming, I think it would have been successful. So
All right. So, anything else to say about Evil Dead before we close this one out? We'll start with Mike.
Ash vs. Evil Dead is good.
The other one's not so much.
They're movies.
Corey.
okay, so Ash vs. Evil Dead, great, spectacular even.
Yeah.
Army of Darkness, great, spectacular. Evil Dead 1, good. Evil Dead 2,
Is a movie.
not good. And then Evil Dead, or I think it's called The Evil Dead, but I don't know. It's either one
Evil
has
Dead.
The and one
It's
doesn't.
just called
The
Evil Dead.
2013 one's just called Evil Dead.
Okay,
Yeah.
then the first one's called The Evil Dead, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So Evil Dead, okay, but completely different than what I want. So, yeah, overall, I'd give it a good
Fucking hate.
2 goods up.
Well, I'll say it's probably my second favorite horror franchise behind Saw, and no matter what they throw out for it, I'll probably end up watching it or playing it if it's a video game or whatever else it ends up being.
I mean, I watched a damn musical, so I'll give it
Yeah,
anything
we watched
a
the
shot.
play musical. It's true. And again, the first one was great. Second one was bad. So we've got the new one coming out. Hopefully we'll do another podcast on it, or we'll just talk about it during one of the podcasts when that comes out next year. But next week is an episode that we're kind of all looking forward to, which is we're doing our riff tracks type of episode where we're going to be talking about rubber. We're going to be talking about teeth.
The movie.
Well, no, we're going to be talking about the rubber that we use or don't use.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So you better not be using teeth.
It's going to be a feast, though.
Yeah.
So we're going to be
It'll
talking
be a
about
feast of teeth and rubbers next week.
Oh,
so,
God.
so tune in. It'll be our first video podcast.
Yikes.
I'm just going to end it there.
Aw.